Good morning, dear students. A warm welcome to today's Mana TV live telecast. Today, we are going to learn about the various ways of expressing a verb in future tense. All of us know that there are three tenses available for us to represent a verb. The first one is the present tense, second one is the past tense, and the third one is the future. These three tenses have different verb structures and we have to make use of those verb structures strictly to represent their respective tenses. And we also know that there are four subtenses which are further divided into three aspects. The four subtenses are the simple tense, the continuous tense, the perfect tense, and the perfect continuous tense. These four subtenses, as I have told already, can be divided into three aspects: the simple aspect, the continuous aspect, and the perfect aspect. The simple aspect describes either the commencement of an action or the completion of an action. Similarly, the continuous aspect or the progressive aspect describes a continuous action, and the perfect aspect again describes a completion of action. Now, if we read this following passage, we can have different verb combinations or verb conjugations in each of the sentences. Let me read through this passage. I have bolded some of the words in each of the sentences, and please have a close look at all those words. The first sentence in the paragraph is, I would like to go on a Tamil Nadu tour. I am planning to see ancient temples. I will land first in Chennai next Sunday. I will be seeing various temples for about 3 days. I will have returned home before the start of semester exams later this month. In this slide, we notice the structure of verbs in different ways. In the first sentence, we have the structure like would like to plus the verb, the basic verb, that is the V1. Similarly, in the second sentence, we see the be form in present time plus ing plus to plus V1 again. In the third sentence, we see will plus V1, that is the basic form of verb. And in the fourth one, we see will be plus V1 ing form. And in the last sentence, we see will have plus V3. These verb structures actually describe various actions in the future time. Now, in modern English, normally people use will as the auxiliary to represent future time. That's why we call future tense will future. Now look at the sentences once again. Boys will play cricket. In this sentence, we find the verb structure will plus V1. Then again, in the second sentence, boys will be playing cricket. Again here we see will be plus ing form for the basic verb structure V1. In the third sentence, we see boys will have played cricket. Here we see will have plus V3. And then in the last sentence, boys will have been playing cricket. Here we see will have been plus ing form for the V1. In all these sentences, we find will as a common component, which is the auxiliary, and we find the verb structure, the verb form V1 in one sentence, ing form in another sentence, V3 in another sentence, been plus ing form in the last sentence. That's how the verb structure changes according to the tense of the verb. Now, let us read the following sentences also. Here again we have the future time in the form of be. Boys will be in the playground soon. Here as all of you know that B represents the status of the subject. Again, in this sentence we find boys will have a nice game of cricket. Here have denotes the possession of the subject boys. That means the verb can describe an action or status or of the possession of the subject. That means the doing of the subject, that is the action, the being of the subject, that is the status, and having of the subject, that is the possession. Now, we find different verb structures in the future time. Take for example, if we use will or shall with the V1, that is the infinitive form, we can have the simple future tense, just like will play or shall play. Similarly, if we use will be or shall be plus ing form for V1, we find the example like will be playing or shall be playing. In these two examples, we see simple future for the first example and future continuous for the second example. Then, again verb structures. See, if we use will or shall have plus V3, we have one more tense, that is the future perfect, and will have or shall have been plus V1 ing form, we have the future perfect continuous tense. The examples are there on the slide. Will have played or shall have played, which denotes the future perfect. Will have been playing or shall have been playing, which describes the future perfect continuous tense. So, in all these four subtenses of the future time, we find different verb structures. Now, let us try to understand what these tenses actually denote in the traditional grammar. If we take up the simple future tense, the simple future tense tells like this. It tells about an action supposed to happen very soon, that is in future. If you take an example, it goes like this. Ravi will cook eggs tonight. Here the word, the element, the adverbial element tonight indicates the future time. Now, what happens tonight? Ravi will cook eggs. That means here the simple aspect describes the commencement of action. That means the action is yet to take place. Then if you take the second tense like the future perfect, the action supposed to have finished before some point of time in future. We will discuss these things in the next slides. The example is like this. Ravi will have cooked eggs by 7 p.m. tonight. That means what happens here is, as already discussed, tonight describes a future time. Here the point of time is 7 p.m. And what happens before 7 p.m.? Here the preposition by indicates the meaning of before. That means what happens before 7 p.m. tonight? Ravi will have cooked eggs. That means the action is supposed to have completed before 7 p.m. tonight. That is in future time. Again, if we take up the next two tenses, they go like this. The future continuous. Here what the verb says, the action supposedly happening at some point of time in future. That means if you go through the example very carefully, you can understand it very easily. Here again we have the adverbial word tonight, which denotes the future. And what is the point of time here? At 7 p.m. That means at 7 p.m. tonight, some action is supposed to be going on. That means here the aspect is a progressive aspect. If you take the second tense in this slide, the future perfect continuous, the action started in future. That means the action hasn't started. It is supposed to start and is likely to be continuing at some point of time in future. So this is very improbable. Why? Because here the time is future tonight and the point of time is 7 p.m. and what is supposed to be going on at that time should have started sometime before that point of time. So this is improbable. And if you take these two tenses of this slide, The future continuous and future perfect continuous tense describe the continuous aspect. If you take back, go back into the previous slide, you have the simple future and future perfect, which indicates the simple future indicates the commencement of action, and the future perfect indicates the action that is likely to be finished before some point of time. That means the future perfect, the future perfect continuous and future continuous are not probable tenses. They cannot be taken for granted, because let us look at the next slide. See, this line graph describes there is a horizontal line and there is a vertical line. The vertical line shows the present time, and the horizontal line is split into two parts. The left side of the vertical line represents the past time, and the right side of the vertical line represents the future. That means the present time actually divides the past and the future. That's how we represent time on a graph. Now, like this. I think all of you can understand what I am saying. Now, let us take the simple future on this line graph. Here again, we have the past, present and future on the graph, and what is going to happen here? That means in future time, some action is supposed to start and it will go on for some time. How long it will go on, we don't know. We here mark the beginning of the action only. This is where the into mark here shows the commencement of action, and it will commence and it will go on for some more time in future time. That means whatever line or whatever parabola I am going to show you in these slides will represent the future time only. Then when do we use this tense? Here we use will plus V1. V1 is, as I told you, the infinitive form. Will plus V1 to describe a possibility usually. If we use will with V1, it denotes a possibility of action only. It is not at all certain. Now look at the examples. Suma will join her new job next week. Here the time word in this sentence is next week. Next week represents the future time, and what is going to take place in this time of a future? She will join. She will join. That means here I have used will plus V1 as the verb structure. Again, the second sentence. Sham will post the letters soon. Here the adverbial represents again the future time, soon. That means I have to use, or we have to use a will auxiliary and V1 to represent the possibility of action in this sentence. Next, Ravi will attend the seminar tomorrow. Here also we have the adverbial tomorrow, which represents the future, and what is going to happen tomorrow? Will attend. Ravi will attend the seminar. And the last sentence, we will go to Mysore next summer. Here again we have the adverbial of a future time, next summer, and what is likely to happen next summer? We will go to Mysore. Here the words like next week, next summer, soon, tomorrow denote the future time. That means if we find such adverbials in sentences, we are supposed to write will plus V1 to represent a possibility of a future action. Now, look at again this slide. We use the adverbials of a future time like soon, shortly, tonight, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next winter, in the days to come, etc. These are the adverbials which represent future time. When we find such adverbials in sentences, in examinations particularly, we use will plus V1 to represent the possibility of a future action. Now, look at this slide again. Here, this slide describes the future continuous tense in the form of a graph. Here, again we find a parabola on the right side of the vertical line. That means I am showing the parabola on the right side, that means in the future time. Here I have drawn one more vertical line to go through the parabola. Here this structure actually shows the into mark in green color shows the commencement of action. The action starts in future and it will go on for some time. At a particular point of time, it should be happening. Okay, is it clear? The action starts in future and it will go on for some time, and that action progressing particularly at a point of time. If we look at examples, we have examples like this. Here, what type of structure we are using to describe a future continuous tense? Will be plus ing form for V1 to describe a progressing action at a point of time in future. Look at the sentence. I will be sleeping at 10 tonight. Here the word tonight, the adverbial tonight, indicates the future time, and the point of time here is at 10. So at 10, what I am going to do will be sleeping. That means will be plus ing form represents the continuation of action at a particular point of time in the future time. Now, I will be sleeping when father returns home. Find the difference between these two sentences. There is one sharp point of time in the first sentence, that is at 10 tonight, and there is a clause type of point of time in the second sentence. When father returns home, what does it mean? Father hasn't returned home. He will return home. That means he is going to come back. So at that point of time, that means we take the father's returning home as a point of time, and what is going to happen at that time? I will be sleeping again. That means these two sentences have two different contexts. One context is the sharp point of time, and the second context is the point of time which is in the form of a clause. Now, look at the next tense, the future perfect. Here in this line graph, we find the commencement of action on the right side of the horizontal line. That means in the future time. Then what is happening there? I have shown one more vertical line there with an orange color into mark. So what is this parabola doing there? It starts it starts in future and it goes on for some time, and it ends before that point of time, which is shown as another vertical line on the graph. That means the second vertical line represents the point of time, and before that point of time the action is supposed to end in future. So in that context only we use normally the future perfect. Now, what type of structure we use to represent future perfect tense? Will have plus V3 to describe a possibly completed action. That means the action is not completed, it is supposed to be completed before some point of time in future. Now look at the examples. These two examples have different contexts. As in the previous slide, we have different contexts here also. I will have slept by 10 tonight. Here the point of time is 10 and the future time is there in the form of the adverbial tonight. So what happens? Before 10 tonight I will have slept. That means I will complete my sleeping before 10 tonight. And again in the second sentence, before my father returns home, here the point of time is shown in the form of a clause. Before that point of time, I again have slept. So these two different contexts indicate the completion of a possible future action before that point of time as shown in this slide. Now, the last tense is future perfect continuous tense. Here also I have shown the same type of graph but with a difference. Here The orange color parabola shows that it has started sometime before the point of time and it is going on at that point of time. What is that point of time? The orange color cross mark has a vertical line and that vertical time is to be taken as the point of time. By that point of time, the action has already started and it is going on at that time. Now, what type of examples we can have for this future perfect continuous tense? Here, the verb structure is will have been plus ing form for V1, which describes a future action that is supposed to have started before future point of time and is progressing at that particular point of time. Now, look at the examples. I will have been sleeping for an hour before father returns home. Here, before father returns home indicates the father hasn't returned home. He will return home. That means it is a future possibility. Before that future possibility, what is going to take place? I will be sleeping, but I will be sleeping for 1 hour. That means we have to use the perfect continuous tense in the place of future continuous. Now, the sentence reads like this. I will have been sleeping. Normally, we use I will be sleeping, but this sleeping has started 1 hour before the returning of father. That is why we use perfect continuous tense in future in such examples. Again, I will have been sleeping for an hour at 10 tonight. Here, the point of time is very sharp as it is there in the previous slides. Now, we will have a few examples. Let us go through them very quickly. And we are supposed to fill in the blanks with appropriate form of verb given in brackets. Normally, we come across such examples in our examinations, in our semester examinations. The first sentence goes like this. The children dash their annual exams next March. That means the action is supposed to take place in March. That's why we use will plus V1 to fill the blank. And the second sentence is like this. Sunil dash send emails at 7 this night. This night is the future, yet 7 is the point of time. That means at that point of time, some action should be going on. That means we use will be plus ing form to fill in the blank. Then she dash read the novel for an hour when Tina telephones her. So, when Tina telephones her is not taken place so far. That means it is a future possibility. Before that future possibility, what is happening? She is reading a novel or she will be reading the novel. But she will be reading the novel for 1 hour. That means before Tina will telephone her, she should have started her work of reading the novel 1 hour before. That means we use future perfect continuous tense to fill in the blank. That means will have been plus ing form. Now, the next example, you can go through them very quickly. Mohan dash buy a car next summer. Buy next summer. That means he is supposed to buy a car before next summer starts. That means the action should have been completed before next summer. In that context, we use will have been plus V3 to fill the blank. Again, Suma dash reach home before her mother goes shopping. Her mother hasn't gone for shopping. That means the action is a future possibility. But Suma has to go home, reach home before mother goes shopping. That means we have to use future perfect to complete this blank. I dash sing folk songs in forthcoming college fest. That means the college fest hasn't come, and during that college fest, I am going to sing folk songs. That means we use will be plus ing form to represent future continuous tense. Now, here we have 3 more examples. I think we have done sufficient exercise by now. So far we have done some traditional grammar which we normally come across in standard grammar books. But the modern grammar does not agree with this type of a distinction of future time. See here, many linguists say that there is no future tense in English. That means whatever we have read, whatever we have learnt is a mere waste so far, because many linguists won't accept the existence of future tense in English. The reasons for this is the first one is future time is uncertain. It is not in our control. It is not like the past or like the present. The present is always in our hands. The action is either going on or is completed or is going to start. In the same way, we represent the simple aspect or continuous aspect or perfect aspect in past tense also. But it cannot be done in future tense. Why? Look at the second bullet. The verb structures as we have shown or as we have learned are inappropriate. They are not suitable for representing future time at all. The helping verbs, this is the most important reason. The helping verbs like will or shall are very weak and they cannot stand on their own. If you take examples for be form like in the present tense is, am, are, these three are the be forms in present time. They can stand on their own. If you take examples like this, he is my teacher. Is a be form, it is independent. Similarly, I am very hungry, am is in present tense a be form, it is an independent verb again. I have two mopeds, here have is used as a complete verb. Similarly, I do exercises, many exercises next week. Here do also is a complete verb, an independent verb. So we have four types of auxiliaries as all of you might have known. The be is the first auxiliary, have is the second auxiliary, third is do, fourth one is modal. So be is in present tense or in past tense or in future tense. Similarly, have is in present tense, past tense or future tense. Similarly, do. We use be, have, do as helping verbs on one side and as independent verbs on the other side. It is not the case with will. We cannot use will as we use be. That's why will and shall cannot stand on their own. They are very weak. Now, look at the possibilities. What I am trying to say is there are so many options in English to represent the future time in the place of future tense. So we need not use future tense at all to represent future actions. So what are the other possibilities? Now look at this slide. Normally we use will plus V1 to describe a future possible action instead of simple present denoting a certain action. But we have to be very careful in between using future tense and present tense in actions. Now look at these two examples. I will be there in a minute, in a moment. So it looks very appropriate. Supposing we say I am there in a minute, most people cannot understand I am there in a moment. So why does he use present tense in the place of future? Similarly, look at the second example. She will meet me tonight. Here I have used the simple future. Supposing I say she meets me tonight, so why should I use V1 plus S, that is simple present. So this type of possibility we are going to learn in the next slides. So the first possibility or the first option to represent a future action is simple present tense. So this is a very commonly used tense to represent a future action. When do we use simple present for simple future? When a scheduled or arranged action is to be described, we don't use will plus V1 as an option. We use V1 or V1 plus S as an option for a future action. Now look at the examples. We have a lesson next Monday. I need not say we will have a lesson because it is an arranged action. Now you know that next Monday denotes the future time. Now, the train arrives at 6:30 in the morning. That means at 6:30. Actually, I am supposed to use will plus V1. That means the train will arrive at 6:30. I need not use will plus V1 as an option, as a combination. I use V1 plus S because the subject is singular in number. The train arrives at 6:30 in the morning. Again, the next example. The holidays start next week. Here is the same example, the arranged action, the scheduled action. And it is my birthday tomorrow. It is a fixed one. I cannot change my birthday from tomorrow to some other day. Now, the second option, the second possibility is using of present continuous tense in the place of future. When do we use present continuous tense? To represent plans and arranged actions. Here again, I am playing football tomorrow. You can use I play football tomorrow. There is no problem. I need not use I am playing. That means we have two combinations of verbs or two tenses as options for future tense. Then they are coming to see us tomorrow. We are arranging a party at Christmas. See, I used simple present tense and also used present continuous tense in the place of future tense. Now, suppose I use the present be plus going to plus V1. What does it suggest? It suggests plans and intentions of the subject. If you take an example like this, I am going to start the project work today. That means I haven't started, but I will start. So, in the place of will plus V1, I use am, that is the present be form, plus going to plus V1 as a possibility. Then they are going to move to New Delhi. See, I have the third possibility. The first possibility is simple present. The second possibility is present continuous. The third possibility is be in present tense plus going to plus V1. Now, we use be in present time plus going to plus V1 to describe something that is likely to happen. Something that is likely to happen. Likely to happen indicates a future action because it hasn't started. Be careful, you are going to fall. That means here the subject you haven't fallen, but there is a likelihood of his falling down. There are many black clouds in the sky. I think it is going to rain. It is going to rain actually denotes the possibility of happening of a future action. Now, verbs like if I use verbs like would like to plus V1, plan, want, mean, hope, expect. If I use such verbs, I can talk about future time. I need not use will. Look at the examples. I would like to go to Kanyakumari next week. That means it is a possibility. It is a possibility of an action that is supposed to take place. Then we plan to shift to another place next month. What I am going to shift? My house. So we plan to shift our house next month. Then the third example, Harish wants to buy a new car. See, the words like would like to, plan, etc. indicate a possibility of action. Now, another combination or another possibility is if we use modal auxiliaries like may, might, could, we can describe a future thing which is not at all sure. For example, if I use an example like this, I might stay at home tonight. So it is just a possibility, it's not sure, it's not a certainty. Then he might be a heart patient. That means it's not sure, he looks like a heart patient. Now, we could see Harish at the meeting. That means it is also an uncertain action that is going to happen in future. Excuse me. Next one. If I use should as an auxiliary plus V1, it indicates a an action that is likely to happen, that is possibly to happen. Look at the example. He should be at home in time for tea. Similarly, the game should be over by 8 o'clock. So here use of should indicates another future action where I haven't used will or shall as a combination of a verb. Now, if we go with clauses which represent the present tense, we can have examples like this. See, I come home when I finish work. Here, I haven't come home, I haven't finished work. That means both actions are likely to take place in future. Here, the use of when indicates both future actions. You must wait here until your father comes. Similarly, they are coming after they have had dinner. See here, these examples which I have shown in yellow color represent future time, but not in will plus V1 structure. Similarly, in clauses referring to present actions after conjunctions like if, when, as soon as, unless, after, before, while, etc., if we use such conjunctions, what happens? Let us have a look at it. We will have a picnic tomorrow if it is a dry day. If it is a dry day, it is a possibility. If it is a wet day, it's a raining day, we won't have any picnic tomorrow. Then he will open the door as soon as he hears the bell. Has he heard the bell? No. If he hears the bell or immediately after his hearing the bell, he will open the door. Here indicates another future action. Now, I will resume the story when we get home. Here also the story is the same. Clauses with if. This is the first condition in conditional clauses. In if clauses, if we use a present tense, we normally indicate a future action. Look at the example here. We won't be able to go out if it rains. That means there is no rain. If it rains, that means there is a condition. If it rains, we won't be able to go out. That means here the condition is in present tense. That's why it represents a possible future action. Then, if Brazil wins tomorrow, they will be world champions in soccer. So, the game hasn't started. It is going to start. It is possibly starting tomorrow. But if Brazil wins the match, they will be world champions in football. Then, don't use will in both clauses. Look at the examples. I will come home when I will finish. Don't use will in the conditional clause. Use simple present. I have written it in the uppercase, finish. Don't use will with V1. Use V1 or V1 plus S, depending on the number of the subject. Now, we won't be able to go out if it will rain. Don't use will rain in the conditional clause with if. Use V1 plus S because the subject is it, which is in singular number. Now, be present, that means present tense, be form in present tense, 2 plus infinitive. This is a very funny example. This represents a future action that is likely to happen, which is a plan. I am to lead the team in final match. I am lead the team. That means I have to lead the team. That means I am going to be the skipper in the final match. Now, we are to give him a few tips on health. And finally, to infinitive plus, that means to infinitive, that means 2 plus V1 form. This is a normal structure which is used in headlines of newspapers. They describe brief news announcements also. So, to give brief news announcements, the journalists in the newspapers use such language. Look at the example. The PM to announce the new economic policy today. To announce. Actually, it is not a complete verb because it should take at least one helping verb. But there is no helping verb in this sentence. Normally, such type of structures, verb structures occur in newspaper headlines or media headlines, electronic media headlines. Then the CM to meet the PM this Sunday. Here is also an announcement which is a future action, a possibility. But here it is not a possibility, it is a piece of information, it is an announcement, it is a headline. Now, be in present tense, about to plus V1. Be in present tense, about to plus V1. Look at the example. What does it indicate? It indicates a prediction. That means an assumption in future. Look at the example. I am about to leave this campus. Am is the be form in present time, about to plus V1. This structure indicates a prediction of a future. Suresh is about to ask a question to the teacher. The students are about to meet the principal. See here, be plus about to plus V1 indicate the prediction of a future action. Sometimes we use this structure also to represent a possibility of a future action. See, had better plus V1. What does it indicate? It indicates a recommendation normally made to other people. So, they can be used for describing a recommendation in present or in future. See the example. You had better switch off the lights before you leave the house. So, this is a recommendation. This is a piece of advice. Similarly, they had better resign the job and join something else. See the recommendation, the option, the other option, had better plus V1. Now, we have a small exercise with 5 examples. You can use whatever we have discussed so far to fill in the blanks. Sunita dash celebrate her 20th birthday next Sunday. So, you can choose any of the forms we have discussed so far in this presentation as a combination of a verb. Similarly, mother dash arrange dinner for neighbors tonight. I dash send a lot of mails this week. Bhargav dash attend the campus elections shortly. The children dash submit their assignments if tomorrow is not a holiday. So, in each of the sentences, I have given you the adverbials in future time like next Sunday, tonight, this week, shortly, like that. So, you can make use of the better option to fill the form. If you have any doubts or further clarifications, you can refer to this bibliography. You can have a list of textbooks, standard textbooks on grammar. A.S. Hornby's A Guide to Patterns and Usages in English. It is a OUP publication, that is Oxford University publication. The author is A.S. Hornby, and the second one is S. Thornbury About Language. It is a Cambridge University publication, and R. Carter and McCarthy Cambridge Grammar of English. It is a Cambridge University publication, and Randolph Quirk A Comprehensive Grammar of the English Language. The publisher is Orient Longman, and the last one S. Chakar Current English Grammar. It is a Macmillan publication. If you have more doubts, or if you want to go further on this subject, you can make use of any of these standard texts which will give you a comprehensive view of tenses and grammar in general. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I hope